Ready to go. Let's go, man. Let's get this game started, bro.
Get the game started. Blow the whistle. Show the world. Let's go tonight.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I'm your host, Christian Williams, and I'm here with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, dude?
Doing pretty good. Excited, kind of, to get through this episode and just get the rankings done. You know, like once you do them, you just want to get the whole content out, get through it completely. This will finish it for us, thankfully, for right now, and we can focus on a little bit more different things.
Yeah. And finishing up with tight ends, you know, we should have worked like tight end up to quarterback the opposite way. However, we did not. So we have to talk about tight ends and we have to talk about the NFC East today. I say that as if it's like a bad thing to talk about football. We're still excited. Just definitely less excited to talk about tight ends than we were the previous positions. But so that's what's on the docket today. Welcome in. If you guys are joining us in the chat, make sure you guys drop a comment, say hello, give your feedback on our show. If you're joining us audio only, make sure you drop a podcast review, preferably 4 or 5 stars. If we're a 1-star podcast to you, just DM us, but leave us the 4 or 5 star because, you know, SEO and stuff. I don't know. Follow us at the Cut FFB, all the places, and a lot of articles coming out on the cutffb.com. We're very, very excited to have a ton of new contributors. We've got a lot of things in the works that we will be releasing information on at a later date. But it's going to be a very exciting season for us and for you guys, because our goal is to help you guys win your fantasy leagues. And we're going to get started on doing that with our tight end rankings. You know, I don't know what value the 50th tight end has, but we're going to tell you who ours is.
It is Dynasty. So, like, a lot of these back ends are, like, people that have, like, some upside or a few young guys that maybe have it in the future. So, these are definitely depth guys in your lineup. But
Yeah, and maybe, you know, there are a few that I think you could probably find on waivers right now at the back end of our top 50. So we are going to do this the same way that we've done all of our other rankings episodes, 50 down to 1, to really hold the suspense. You know, we're probably going to go a little faster through the tight ends.
Because the top 5 is the part that's like really difficult to guess.
Right. All right. So let's get started. We're going to go 50 to 40 first. Donald Parham Jr. is our 50th tight end. Max Williams, 49. 48 is Kenny Yeboah. 47, Jack Doyle. 46, Tyler Eifert. 45, Nick Boyle. 44, Kylan Granson. 43, Ian Thomas. 42, Mo Alley Cox. 41, Kyle Rudolph. And 40, Jace Sternberger. Do you have anything to say about those guys?
Man, I jokingly put shitstorm in the doc, but Donald Parham, he could be the starting tight end for the Chargers. So I guess right now he's probably worth more, but there's not like a ton of high upside. He's not really a good blocker. He's just one of those big body guys. Max Williams, it seems like we're more of the belief that he's like at least a better tight end than Dan Arnold right now, where apparently we're in the wrong, but I haven't seen much from Dan Arnold to say anything. Kenny Yeboah, I love coming out. Hopefully becomes something. There's just and then Kylan Granson, we are much higher on than a lot of people. But that's about it for that. Like, I'm not excited about anyone else. Ian Thomas had the role, didn't do anything. So same with Eifert.
Yeah, I will say, like, Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson being this close. We do have Mo Alley ahead. simply because we've seen it. But Kylan Granson is going to get the Trey Burton role for that Colts offense immediately, in my opinion.
Maybe.
And, that role wasn't great. It's not like that's a super lucrative role, but he's a rookie, and you never know what you're going to get with some of these guys. And that's kind of where you take a stab at a guy like this rather than, an aging, I don't even know who, like Mercedes Lewis or someone like that, I'd much rather have a Kylan Granson, of course. That's about all I have to say about that group as well. There's not a ton of things there. Ian Thomas probably won't be the starter for his own team, and by probably, I don't think he will be, even for a day. I think they brought in Dan Arnold down there in Carolina. We think that Ian Thomas has a little bit of talent, at least. Well, I do, at least. I don't know about you, but that's why he's here, I guess.
I just think both aren't great. So, people have both their tight ends on, but not Max Williams, who's pretty much the only person in Arizona. And then it's I would rather have the guy that's been in the offense than Dan Arnold, who couldn't do anything in any offense. So,
yeah. All right, 39 through 30. I can't
better.
Slightly. Not a ton. So 39, Drew Sample. 38, Jordan Akins. 37, Jared Cook. 36, Hunter Long. 35, Will Dissly. 34, Albert Okwuegbunam. 33, Tommy Tremble. 32, Brevin Jordan. 31, Adam Troutman. 30, Harrison Bryant. Lot better. Lot of nice high upside guys. Randy, what do you see out of that group?
Well, Adam Troutman probably sticks out to a lot of people. A lot of places have him much higher, top 20. I don't think I'm probably the highest on him of us, and I think I have him mid-20s maybe. He might be the only kind of guy there right now, but he also shares his position with the running back that plays quarterback. So I just don't – it's not like Josh Hill did anything. It's just not a lucrative position. The only upside is if it is Jameis full time, he was able to use 2 tight ends, and he definitely is going to go for the more traditional tight end in Troutman, I'm sure, than the guy that might take his job. So that seems like something Jameis would do to me. I'm just saying. So I think we're a little low on him, but not by enough to where he'd be top 20. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I get the age and the upside, but I don't think he's that good.
Well, here's the thing with Troutman too. I mean, they felt so great about him that they went and signed Nick Vannett to a 2-year deal. I mean, and I'm not saying that Nick Vannett takes Adam Troutman's role away, but I don't think that it's an accident that they went out and got a tight end. I don't think Adam Troutman is going to be the primary pass catcher. He never will be as long as Michael Thomas is there. And and you're looking at an offense too that what is the upside if it's Jameis or if it's Taysom? You're not getting a Drew Brees level offense, and so I think tempered expectations are there, and he might have a couple tight end 1 finishes in store in 2021 alone. But
yes.
I don't know. That's a good reason to be low on him, though.
Next thing of note, we have both the tight ends of note for the terrible Texans in Brevin Jordan and Jordan Akins. If they didn't draft Brevin Jordan, Jordan Akins would be probably where Jordan is, actually. At 32, he would be much higher for me because he showed out last year and the second half of the year before, in my opinion. But they drafted a better athlete. Now, is the team good? No, so it doesn't matter. But we'll see how it ends up. There's not Jared Cook is going to be the starting tight end. That's a year you can use him. Hunter Long is going to be a tight end 2 for his team. Drew Sample's apparently the tight end of the future for the Bengals. We're high on Tommy Tremble, I think, but he was that next batch of tight end for us in the draft, and maybe we're a little bit higher just because of our actual viewing of him other than other people in the industry.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, we had him ranked fairly highly as a tight end in the NFL draft. It was mostly due to his blocking, right? He didn't show a ton of pass catching. However, you could have said the same thing about Jonnu Smith a few years back. He was only a blocking tight end. He developed into a really good pass catcher, and then he became one of the highest paid tight ends in the league this year. So he was very, very efficient. And Tommy Tremble's the type of athlete that can turn into a good fantasy performer. So definitely the same thing with Albert O, though. I mean, that's pretty much what would justify ranking him this high as well. So
yeah, the only problem with, I mean, he's just on a team with an elite tight end. So he's until he's gone, there's until he's not a Bronco anymore, there's no way he'll ever be a top 10 tight end.
Yeah, and a few really, really good receivers. It's tough to even see him being like a second option, you know?
No, at this point, he's got to be 5th or 6th. That's why it's like, well, there's talent, but who gives a shit?
Yeah, I will say Harrison Bryant for us, I'd love it if he got a little higher simply because David Njoku is not locked in long term, and the Browns will forever use 12 personnel under Stefanski, and I expect Kevin Stefanski to be the head coach there for a long time. So he'll be an immediate value starting next year, but right now he's got to kind of sit here because what are you getting from him in 2021? Probably not much.
Yeah, but his best weeks were when he was the only tight end, really, or at least Hooper was out. So it's just not – there's talent, but there has to be opportunity for him to actually excel. So he's the guy that you have deep on your bench that you can plug in situations.
Yeah, very true. All right, Randy, I actually threw you a curveball here. So I switched up the graphics because you yelled at me last week. But I didn't update the show doc. So we're just going to fly by the seat of our pants here. We're going 29 to 25 here. Only 5 to talk about. 29, Anthony Ferkser. 28, Eric Ebron. 27, the aforementioned David Njoku. 26, Hayden Hurst. And 25, Rob Gronkowski. My first thoughts here, Njoku, if he hits, what we think his ceiling could be, is low. Gronk here only because of age. He definitely still has some really good performances left in the tank. It's probably limited to 1 year, and we're not playing Dynasty for just 1 year. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this group of 5 here?
I mean, I think we're slightly high on Njoku. That's mainly, I'm sure, because of you. I know you have the growing belief that he has every chance to become the tight end 1 on the Browns. And, I don't think there's enough evidence to argue against that, especially when there is a 12 personnel and he is clearly going to be on the field. He played so much better last year. A massive props to him. His hands still aren't that good, but he at least caught the ball a couple times last year. But he's still so young and athletic. I think if they never signed Hooper, I think last year he would have done well enough that he would be in the O.J. Howard conversation because of just pure athlete of the position, where Howard hasn't done much in years now and still gets away with being a top option.
How old do you think David Njoku is, just off the top of your head?
26.
That's high. He's only 24 years old. O.J. Howard's 26. David Njoku was drafted when he was freaking 20 years old.
Yeah, so. That's the thing. So he hasn't done the same amount at this. Actually, he's probably done about the same amount at the age of O.J. Howard. And at that year, O.J. Howard was a top 5 fantasy dynasty pick. Obviously, Njoku has nowhere near that kind of that's not where you should be, anywhere near that right now. But he's a good guy you could stash late, and you're going to get value because he's always going to be at the fields. And honestly, I think he's gone for this year. There's plenty of teams that need tight ends. He's going to excel, and we're going to get into one of the guys that is going to be gone and excelling somewhere else next year after this.
Yeah. I do want to note that this is a very high upside group. So you've got Ferkser, who profiles as probably the 3rd option, depending on Josh Reynolds in that offense, maybe fourth. But could have, Jonnu Smith was a top 12 tight end last year, right? So you could look at
different offense, though.
Very
Slightly.
different. Yeah, I would say very. We'll see what it actually looks like, but with Julio there now, it's gonna at least target distribution is probably gonna look different. But Hayden Hurst, I think, has very, very sneaky upside, especially with the absence of Julio. I am on an island, I think, with my belief that Hayden Hurst gets a lot of that work. I don't think it's all Russell Gage. I don't think it's all Frank Darby. I don't think it's Olu Zacchaeus. Is that how you fucking say? I never know how to say that kid's name.
I never tried. I don't think Darby even is a factor this year.
I don't
think I think people are just typing up because of rookie. I think it's all Gage, and then I think Gage gets a great amount because he was valuable for that offense, not necessarily for fantasy. He was valuable for them with Julio, and especially without Julio, he was both. So I think he steps into somewhat of the role he had with Julio gone. And, I mean, I think Hurst probably keeps – he's going to end up losing targets, right? Because Pitts is taken away. There's a good chance Pitts gets over 100 targets.
I think Pitts does get over 100 targets. I also think that I think the fantasy community as a whole hasn't really factored in how much 12 personnel they're going to be in. Just with the introduction of Arthur Smith. And so I still think Hurst gets 60 targets.
Well, yeah, but he probably got 50, 60 last year. That's what I was saying. I think he keeps his role.
Yeah.
It's just he's the tight end too. Kind of. It's weird. I still think he finishes top 24 easy for me, but this is Dynasty and they just drafted a much better tight end. So it's got to knock him down.
Yes. Much better receiver, too. All right, let's get into our tight end twos here. So we've got Dawson Knox at 24, 23, Logan Thomas, 22, Gerald Everett, 21, Blake Jarwin, 20, O.J. Howard, 19, Zach Ertz, 18, Pat Freiermuth, 17, Tyler Higbee, 16, Evan Ingram, 15, Austin Hooper, 14, Cole Kmet, 13, Hunter Henry. Thoughts on this group, Randy?
Okay. This is kind of the Christian group. That's what I'm going with here.
Okay.
Mainly because I believe you're the reason Logan Thomas is lower for us than most places.
Yes.
But you're also the reason that O.J. Howard is higher for us. You're the reason that Cole Kmet's slightly higher. So this is just your group. It's just weird like that. The biggest things we have Kmet truly hopefully coming to his own. Hooper, who this is where he should be. There's no question for me there. Evan Ingram has been a disappointment of late, so he's moving down. Higbee is now supposedly on his own, but he's also not. So I don't think he's truly going to be unleashed the way people think, but I think he's going to have a good year. And Ertz, for me, is the biggest talking point because he's at 19, and that's because he's still in the Eagles, I think, and because of age, obviously.
Yeah.
I think he's traded before the season. I think he's traded soon, in my opinion, and I think there's 4 or 5 teams that are in desperate need of him, including the Jaguars, the Cardinals, hell, the Panthers if they really felt like it. I mean, the Bengals. You can go through the Colts even. He would make perfect sense for them, even though it would be a crowded room then. There's a litany of teams that should be looking at Zach Ertz to really elevate their offense to the next level, and I think he will for 2 years, and then we're kind of concerned past then.
Yeah.
So if he gets traded, I think he will be back into the tight end one conversation for this season and only this season, but that's a very valuable asset for 2021.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more out on him, even if he does get traded, just simply because he was ultra inefficient when he was on the field last year. Now he still posted some good games towards the end of the year and kind of proved me to be stupid. But that's not hard to do. So, in
fairness to him, there was some injury there. Carson Wentz was ultra inefficient, so that hurt him a ton.
Yeah.
And then they were also trying to phase him slightly out of the offense for Goddard because he was clearly their future at the position. So that's what I'm saying. I think if he's traded soon to a team that has a good offense or there's a young quarterback that's going to use that dump down a lot, I think he's clearly in a conversation every week for tight end one for just this season.
Yeah, it's fair. We mentioned Tyler Higbee. I think one name that I will be bumping up just based, I've seen too much for it not to be sticky. Jacob Harris, the tight end over there in Los Angeles, is putting on a freaking show. Now, Higbee hadn't participated, obviously, in rookie camp, and Higbee, I believe, was sitting out the first part of OTAs here. And so Jacob Harris had a chance to go out there and be like the tight end one for the team. And every single report I've seen says that he looks like he belongs. He looks like he could take over the starting role. Now,
that won't happen.
Now, they tend to use two tight ends, though. So, I mean, we have Gerald Everett on this list. If Jacob Harris gets that Gerald Everett role, that's something I'm interested in.
Well, and that means Higbee should be right here for redraft and dynasty because of that. And they still have Hunter Bryant, correct? I believe that's who or is that the Lions?
The Lions, I think, had him. I don't know who the Lions have anymore,
I swear they have someone else, too, at tight end, but it doesn't matter. So they have two tight ends again that they seem that they're going to like. Higbee is going to get one or two explosive weeks. That's just going to happen. But I don't think he's truly this vertical threat that like Stafford's going to target. I mean, Hawkinson was really good last year and didn't get overly targeted by Stafford because of a lot of checked out routes that Stafford just doesn't want to throw. So I just don't think this is going to be some elite tight end. I just don't think he has the talent really to be like in that upper echelon of tight ends either. So but
I'm with you.
Quickly, Everett, it's your guy. What are we thinking here?
I think Everett. Now, here's the thing. I'm torn because I believe in both Disley and Everett, and now they're both on the same team. Whereas, like before, I didn't really believe in Higbee, but I believed in Everett, so I had a reason or a way to justify Everett being where he was in my rankings. With Everett, though, we know he has the talent. It's can he stay on the field? Right now, the answer's been no, but the same can be said about Disley. And I think now, while the Seahawks definitely added a ton of wide receivers, Everett was their guy to add to the tight end room. They let Jacob Hollister go. And so now you're looking at Everett, who should be used as a primary pass catcher. Disley can be that vertical threat because he's very, very good in that type of role. And Everett can be the kind of underneath stuff, working with Lockett. And then you've got DK to stretch the field as well and do all of the DK Metcalf things. So it's just a guy that I think we have not seen his ceiling, and he's still fairly young. So,
yeah, we both love Disley so much, especially for that brief stint that he had in 2018, maybe 2019. I can't fully remember right now. Before he got hurt, where he only got the opportunity because someone got hurt. But either way, he showed out there that he could truly be special at the position, and we just haven't been able to see it since. And I think Everett may handicap that possibility of ever seeing it again. But I do think they probably run, again, another team that probably is going to run 12 personnel a lot. It's not like they fixed the O-line, anything. So they need to help Russ as much as possible. They really only have two receivers I really care about, and anyone should care about. So it does make sense to run 12 personnel and run the ball more.
Let's not throw away Dwayne Eskridge yet. I think
I'm not throwing him away. It's just someone I don't care about this year. I just don't think he.
The more you think about it, very odd pick. You would think that was like a Tyler Lockett insurance plan when he leaves. They signed Tyler Lockett to an extension, but pick the same player. I don't really understand it, but
it doesn't make sense. It just. They continue to try and build like that instead of just helping for us be able to stand upright. So it's one of those things.
It's very weird. All right, let's get into our 12 through 6 here. At 12, we have Mike Gesicki, 11, Jonnu Smith, 10, Irv Smith Jr., 9, Robert Tonyan, 8, Dallas Goedert, 7, Noah Fant, 6, TJ Hawkinson. man, I was gonna say I think we're low on TJ Hawkinson based on what like Twitter has dictated, but it looks like we're not compared to most consensus rankings.
No, we honestly 1 through 12 were pretty alongside consensus. Unfortunately and fortunately. We are slightly higher on Tunyon, and I think that might be the industry just correcting back to the possibility of it being Jordan Love instead. But I just think that probably helps Tunyon, honestly. Like, obviously, the offense isn't great with Jordan Love necessarily, but he is going to need a safety net. So that's going to be him and Adams, obviously, but still. Irv Smith, breakout candidate at 10 already. Dallas Goedert's obviously going to be good for a long run. Noah Fant deserves to be 7. Hockenson deserves to probably be behind Noah Fant, in my opinion, but it's just how it shakes out. Hockenson is really, really good. He's on a shit team, on a quarterback that likes to dump it down. So, yeah, I get it. Honestly, it's shocking that it's just – I think we still have the name value of Mark Andrews. I think I would rather have Hockenson, but –
I would too. And I think that's how I have it ranked. But if it's not, then I need to fix it. But I'm almost positive I have Hawk ranked ahead of Andrews because I think my top 5 looks a little bit different than your guys's, if I recall. I'm going to try to pull it up.
Yeah. No.
Oh, well, I guess I'm just stupid.
I mean, it looks slightly different than mine, but it's for a different reason.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We will get to that. But so the point I wanted to make here mostly, I'm the big Tunyon believer. Now, I think we all are, but I was the one who was touting him as like a top 10 Dynasty tight end before the end of last season. I got freaking killed for it on Twitter. People said Tunyon's not even going to be back with Green Bay. Well, he was a restricted free agent, so yes, he is. I think they're going to work to get him extended because now Jay Sternberger is just a DUI king. And so, yeah, it's tough. Yeah. And you also have a guy who's just an ultra efficient, very good route runner that can, I mean, he runs the scheme has Robert Tunyon wide open in the end zone. It doesn't take Aaron Rodgers to throw to Robert Tunyon in the end zone. Jordan Love's going to be able to as well. I think the tight end or the touchdown opportunity is still going to be there no matter what. And so I think he's very, very valuable.
Yeah. I mean, just I don't really know what else to go over. I love Tunyon. Honestly, this is a group of guys that you're not going to spend the ultra high capital for one of the top 5. But they have every shot to be the number 1 tight end, in my opinion, and there are locks for tight end 1s without any major injuries. The only question marks being 11 and 12 here, in my opinion, only because Johnny Smith competing with Hunter Henry for touches, but they are both the best receivers on the team. And then Mike Gesicki, I think he'll be consistent enough to be the one, but they did draft Hunter Long. I do think they still stick with 2 tight end sets a good amount, but I think I'm worried that Gesicki won't always be in because they added 2 receivers that are very, very fucking talented this year. So it begs the question of how much 12 do they really run when you have, 4 receivers you trust?
Dude, the way they've built that offense is very, very confusing to me because
they literally built a system. They're like, you know what? We got to continue to just fuck with that. It's just
honestly, like, I mean, it's good that now they have a ton of weapons. They got Preston Williams in promos today. I saw that. I tweeted out the video actually. And so if you're putting Preston in your promo videos, that means you have a plan for Preston to be used in promo videos, meaning that he's probably a roster lock. Because I don't think they're really bringing all the guys in there. So then you've got
the top 4 are going to be there. Just all 4 are roster locks.
Is he a top 4? Yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
I know how we think of it.
No,
I think he's top 3.
He's the 4th. He's 4.
He's 3. He's ahead of Devontae.
Well, obviously, so like Fuller, Waddle are roster locks because it's high capital this year. One contract, one's pick.
Right.
Parker's clearly a lock of the team. There's a chance he gets traded only to give Preston more touches, but neither has shown the ability to be healthy, so it's kind of hard to fully say that they're going to get rid of one. Preston, when he's been on the field, was clearly the best wide receiver they had.
Yep. Yeah.
So
and we also have to factor in that Fuller is missing the first 2 games of this season, so Preston will get on the field.
I thought it was just one. Was it 2?
It might be 1. It might be 1.
Either. Yeah. So that's what I mean. I could see them getting off of Parker just to get off like the contract because him and Preston are basically the fucking same thing, and the other two are completely different. So it would make sense, but at that, what are you getting? Unless you're getting a stud tackle, is it worth it? Like,
probably not.
They don't have like these glaring roster holes or like a stud linebacker or a top pick. Like, I just don't see you getting better than like a Julio went for a second, a fourth, or second to sixth. So, like, is he a fourth? Like,
if that, I mean, that's your best bet. But all right, that's enough talk about Devontae Parker being gone so Preston Williams can freaking thrive. But all right, top 5 tight ends here. Number 5, we have Mark Andrews. Number 4, Kyle Pitts. Number 3, Darren Waller. Number 2, George Kittle. Number 1, Travis Kelce. Obviously, we knew that those were the names that were left. Again, I could make an argument that I think Hawkinson belongs in that 5 spot over Andrews. And I know that Adam, I believe, has them back-to-back. You have them back-to-back as well. And then I actually have Mark Andrews as my tight end 7. So I knocked him down a little bit. But what are you thinking here? I know you have a different tight end 1. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, so just right off the bat, we're exactly the consensus here. Consensus-wise, Kelce still over Kittle, but I have Kittle over Kelce. Since I've done this, I have been closer to jumping off the train than sticking with it. But I usually stick with my takes, and especially when it's like this. Kittle is more talented, in my opinion, than Kelce. And
I agree.
Now, the problem is he hasn't been healthy the last couple of years. He's on a shifting offense, but an incredible offense. And I think the offense is only getting better with the new addition of quarterback. And I just don't see, like, he's the clear number 1 option over running the ball over everything. I think if he stays on the field, he surpasses Kelce easily. And that's saying something. Like that's the thing. And then if it's that close, you have to somewhat factor age and team around. And then you factor contract, where Kittle is clearly going to be around for the long haul. Kelce, you would assume finishes his career there. But, I mean, getting older, the team's losing. They're going to be losing the ability to sign him soon if he gets another contract. It gets complicated.
It does. And I can hear the argument. Obviously, we know I don't agree. I have Travis Kelce at 1. And the only reason that I still have Kelce at 1, and I think I could make an argument for Darren Waller at the tight end 1. And the fantasy community, with the way they're valuing Kyle Pitts, has basically said Kyle Pitts is the one. Jeff was trying to trade Kyle Pitts or Travis Kelce straight up for Kyle Pitts, and he could not do it.
So quickly, your top 5: Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson. My top 5: Kittle, Kelce, Waller, Andrews, Hawkinson. Adams, Kelce, Waller, Kittle, Pitts, Andrews. So there's a clear cut difference in mine. Obviously he's the unicorn. He's incredible. He's done nothing. Maybe I question possibly moving him up to 6 after the Julio trade, but I've seen Noah Fant be relevant and effective for 2 years. Why would I want the guy that I think could do the exact same stuff as Fant, but hasn't done it? and has an aging quarterback, I guess they both have the odds of having a new quarterback next year. But either way, I like Fant better right now. Pitts is incredible. Pitts deserves to be picked early. I wouldn't pick him over the top 3. I think I would possibly pick him over Andrews just because of the perceived value of him right now. But if you get Pitts, my God, I don't know how you keep Pitts is my only problem with him. Like he is at peak value right now. The only way he gets more valuable is if he's like clear cut above the 1 in 3 years. Like that's the only time he's going to be more valuable, because right now for the next year, probably 2, he's not going to be over the top 2 in my opinion. And he's probably going to have the same target share as Waller. And right now I'd take Carr over Ryan. So
I would too. Yeah, I get it. I definitely understand it. And I think I'm with you in that, like, you have to draft knowing what the perceived value is. We talk about how we value those guys, and that really, you can throw that out the window if you get a gauge on. I mean, obviously you pick your players that you like, but if you draft Mark Andrews ahead of Kyle Pitts, you just threw away the opportunity to get Mark Andrews and a player back, because that's pretty much what Pitts goes for at this point, you know? So you have to consider value a little bit.
I could promise you, like, we have this contributor league that's going to be drafting somewhat soon. If not this week, then 2 weeks, because definitely not fucking next week.
Absolutely.
But like, there's a good chance we're going to make that tight end premium, especially if we have to go off of the super flex to give that position slightly more value. And probably gives quarterback slightly more value as well to help out with that. I think Pitts is probably going in the first round in that. And guess what? If he goes in the second round, I'm still not drafting him. Like, I won't have any shares of Pitts. The only chance I have is a rookie draft where I have a top 5 pick. I will probably never have shares of Pitts unless he disappoints this year.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people are saying to do is don't draft him, trade for him. I personally think that once he gets 115 targets in his rookie year, we're going to say, fuck, should have drafted him, because now I have to spend up for him. And
I'm going to be in trade talks like, see, I mean, Everett Ingram did the same thing though, dude. Like,
it's true. And you're gonna get some crazy deals done because that's what you do. All right. That'll do it for our Dynasty tight end rankings. Make sure you let us know what you think of them. Tell us why we're wrong. Tell us why we're right. No one ever does that. So just tell us why we're wrong. And we'll try to respond to you. Again, we're always open to feedback, and we are just trying to help you. Shoot us DMs about these tight end rankings. Again, 50 through 25. Not the greatest list, but hopefully it helps you late in your deep dynasty drafts. Now, let's get into our burning questions. Unfortunately, no offense to the NFC East, we have to talk about the NFC East. And I'm sorry to the fans of the NFC East. I know a lot of good people that like them. Adam,
Again, but the thing with this, with this segment, it's hard to talk about the NFC East because the best team on paper is the Cowboys. It's hard to come up with questions for them, and then the other teams, obviously like Washington, same kind of problem, but like Philly and Giants, at a point, the questions you have to ask are going to piss people off. That's why it's like, shit, we got to talk about the East.
Yeah, that's we're going to start with the Cowboys so that we don't get people all riled up to start. So the 3 questions here, and we're going to do these the same way we've done all the divisions thus far, and we'll continue to do it this way. 3 questions per team for every team in the division, and then we kind of go through, and hopefully we haven't been super consistent with this, but we're going to pick winners of the division. We will probably do our schedule predictor episode at some point here soon, so we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But the 3 questions for the Dallas Cowboys. Number 1, has Zeke become a value in fantasy drafts, specifically Dynasty? Number 2, is Michael Gallup going to bounce back and be a viable fantasy option? And then number 3, a little bit more football related. Did the Cowboys improve the defense enough to compete for the division? Randy, your answer to the first question about Zeke being a value. Ready, go.
Yeah, I think he's become a value. I think we have ended up talking him down so far that, I will say it kind of depends, because I believe when I wrote this question, he was going as RB like 12, 13, like 11 maybe. He's now back up to RB 10, so the value is dipping a lot, but he is going at around the end of the second round. So that means the guy that ends up getting, let's say, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, can then come back and get Zeke, and then probably return, if he wants to be a dick, pick Mixon or Eckler. I mean, if he's going as your RB2, he's a clear value to me. This offense with Dak and Zeke with Dak is clearly above and beyond so much goddamn better. He is going to be better this year. He is going to be a value because people keep driving him down boards. If he was still considered the RB like 5 through 8, I don't think he'd be a value. I think he'd be like, okay, that's probably where his ceiling around is. I don't think he's going to be the one this year. But if you're getting him as possibly RB2 and definitely as a back-end RB1, I think it's definitely not like an ungodly value, but it's definitely some sort of value.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think this is all driven by, Jacob on Twitter, who he's been pumping up Tony Pollard for weeks. We love Tony Pollard here on this show. He's a very, very good running back. The problem is you follow the money, and the money says that Zeke is going to be the starter until the wheels fall off, and the wheels haven't fallen off. He's had a few inefficient seasons, but it doesn't matter because they still give him the ball. They know he's inefficient, and they don't care, and he still scores. He's going to get double-digit touchdowns again with Dak under center. He's going to get some type of pass-catching work, though I think that does decrease because of Tony Pollard's emergence in that aspect last year. Plus, you have CD, and then our next question, obviously, as well. So I think that if you're drafting him 8 to 12, that's probably right around good value. I don't think he's like you said, I don't think he's like a major value at that point, but he is a value. And so I'm targeting him as much as I don't love it because of his age and he's pretty much on the decline now. I still like Zeke enough where I'll take him as my RB2. I've followed your line of thinking. I did 0 running back draft last year and I lost, so I'm never doing it again. So I'm going robust running back and I'm drafting Zeke as my RB2 and I'm going to win some leagues this year. So
yeah, I'm a real dick with that stuff, man. I can't I gotta just keep doing it.
Yeah, it's kind of your brand. It's just take all the running backs and quarterbacks. Yeah, all the good players.
Because I could win with Deontay Johnson and Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell, Henry Ruggs. I could win with that.
You can when you have 5 starting running backs. Yeah.
All
right.
flex, all running back, all the time.
It's so true. That's literally how you build your rosters. All right. Second question here. Is Michael Gallup going to bounce back and be a viable fantasy football option? Now, I do want to specify fantasy because Michael Gallup did contribute very, very much so to the Cowboys offense when Dak was in there, and then a little bit with Andy Dalton. But what they used Michael Gallup, his role was pretty much, hey, run fast, run straight, and we'll sometimes throw you the ball. The problem was Andy Dalton could not get him the ball. Do we think that changes in 2021?
Okay, so I put this in here for the reason of I don't think he's worth a pick in redraft leagues. But I do think he's worth a pick in dynasty startups where he's going like wide receiver, like 55 in the early hundreds in picks. I think he's a value. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure like Henry Ruggs and like Rager and Pittman are all there. I think I take all of them ahead of him. but I do think you're going to get some sort of value from him in the long haul. He's a talented receiver, but the second they drafted CD, he didn't matter anymore for fantasy necessarily. For football, he's still killing it for them. But you have to – Jarwin's supposed to be back. Dak's supposed to be back. CD is supposed to get probably an elevated role with Cooper kind of stepping to the almost tied 1A at this point, I think, with Lamb. I think people are overhyping Lamb slightly, but I do think he gets an increased role. Michael Gallup's role didn't really change without Dak. Honestly, he was the third most, devastated by the injury. It was actually CD Lamb, production was 22% worse or something, and Cooper was 18%. Gallup was 10. It seems strange because it was a favorite target of Dak's 2 years ago. It didn't matter. The favorite target's already becoming CD Lamb because he's working the slot against the fourth or fifth corner that nobody gives a dick about. He's kind of a cheat code, and that's what slot guys are. So I think Gallup's worth a pick at Dynasty with the hope that he becomes something else somewhere else.
Yeah, I think Atlanta would be a nice little spot for him next year. But I'm with you. I think where his value will be is in DFS. I think what's going to happen is he's going to be super low priced. You're going to make that bet, and he's going to go off for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in a couple games next year, or best ball. I think Michael Gallup's a really good best ball pick too.
For sure. I'll say that for this year, yeah. Best ball, I would be happy with him in the later rounds. I do think I agree he's going to have 1 or 2 really, really good games because he's a good football player and he helps this offense run better.
The Cowboys offense is freaking insane, dude.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's not fair.
And you can argue their 4th and 5th receivers last year were pretty damn good too. They were pretty impressive in spurts. So
yeah.
All right, and then the third question here for the Cowboys before we move on to Adams Eagles. Did the Cowboys improve their defense enough to actually compete for the division title?
I'll quickly answer with not really, but who gives a fuck? and that's because the offense is just so goddamn good. I think they realistically are going to put up at least 27 points a game on average. And when you're doing that, your defense only needs to give up 24 or less. So I do think there were some improvements in the secondary. I believe they try to emphasize the linebacker position a lot and somewhat the D tackles. I think they're very, very confused what they're doing with their linebackers right now, and that scares me. So I think they're going to work that out over this year. So I think the secondary's slightly improved with the D-line, slightly improved. The linebacking core obviously has a huge influx of talent. I think, I believe Jabril Cox and then Micah Parsons are fucking incredible athletes who are going to be incredible football players in the NFL, but they already have good linebackers. They lost one and were like, you know what, we need so many more. Oh, God.
They panicked, man. They really did.
We don't have Sean Lee.
So let's get Michael Parsons. No, I'm with you. I just wrote my first solo article for Fantasy Pros, and it was an IDP discussion, and I talked through the Micah Parsons situation where most people have him locked into their LB1 and pretty much their top rookie performer in IDP leagues. And I don't see that because I posed the question on Twitter, is Leighton Vander Esch better than Micah Parsons today if he's fully healthy? And I think the answer is yes. Everyone else told me the answer is no.
I think that's better in an IDP league as well.
Yeah.
I think I won't say he's a better football player necessarily because I believe we both had Leighton as a late first round guy. And Micah, we both had as a first rounder lock kind of guy. With you probably more closer to where Leighton was valued to me more middle round. So I think just pure athlete talent, I would have Micah. But the role on that team, especially for IDP, Vander Esch is much better if he's on the field because he's a tackling fucking machine. The neck roll shows out, and I don't know how he keeps hurting his neck actually, but because he's an absolute piss missile that kills people on the field, which is better than a lot of their team.
Yes.
I think I agree with you. Yeah, and especially with Micah coming into the league, he's going to be learning kind of a weird role, almost the same as Jalen Smith, but with a lot less pass coverage.
Dude,
Like Sean Lee was run stuffer, really.
which is what I assume. So right now, if you go to our lads, Vander Esch is a backup, and I just don't
wrong.
see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it. But they do have Jalen Smith, who I believe will probably play Will or Sam now, because where do you put in Micah? He's not good in coverage.
Wasn't Jalen Sam?
He was, but he played a little bit of Mike too, and so
Mike, yeah.
And so I guess my question for that defense is, how do you get all these guys on the field? Jabril Cox, we haven't even freaking touched on him, and he's probably the best coverage linebacker day one. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's just a weirdly built team.
They almost have to go to like a 3-5 scheme, which I just don't see them doing. And it would fit their secondary better, but like, no, well, they can't do full 3. Like 3-5 means like they would have like 2 rushing outside linebackers most of the time, which is the same thing as a 3-4, but 3-5 would be like more like, yes, we're rushing. But I think they're a 4-3 scheme, if I'm not mistaken. I think they have the personnel to be 3-4 now. I think they've kind of fucked themselves.
They have a very multiple personnel. Like they can do whatever they want, which is nice. Like, but is it going to help them?
But the league's going to more secondary on the field.
Yeah, and they have all these linebackers. Literally, the position that is rendered least valuable, they have all of. And so I don't know how that translates. But let's just move on. Overall, my answer would be no, I don't think they did, because we'll talk about the team I think will win this division. But let's first talk about the Eagles.
What a misleading transition. What a misleading transition.
Very true. Yes. So the 3 questions for the Philadelphia Eagles is Jalen Hurts a legitimate quarterback in the NFL? All this talk about the committee of running backs. What is Miles Sanders' outlook in Dynasty, and then also for 2021? And then there are rumors or reports, I guess, not really rumors, that Jalen Reagor is now the slot receiver, meaning that either Greg Ward or I guess Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith's going to be an outside receiver. The question here, though, is Travis Fulgham the X receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles? And then I guess I'll expand on that. Doesn't matter. But first question, is Jalen Hurts legitimate? Randy, you go first. We all know my answer, but I'll give it anyway later.
Okay, so my biggest thing for this is he like the savior of the Eagles offense, or is he Taysom Hill of Philly? And I think it's kind of a middle, but I definitely think it leans more towards the Taysom side, meaning that I don't think he's a pure legitimate quarterback. Not knocking the guy. I think he's going to be a great fantasy option, and probably every week has a chance to be a QB1. So draft him. But for pure football, I don't like his setup. I don't like his outlook. They did give him a really good receiver. The line should be healthy. They have good running backs. They've set it up to where he should be pretty good. But I just don't think he's a good passer. I don't think he's overly accurate when he's not on the run or making those playmaking plays, which he does very, very well. And I think he's going to run enough, and people are going to be confused by it's the same thing we had to argue with people with Taysom, where as a quarterback, he's not that good, but as a fantasy asset, he's really good at quarterback. And I think that's where he's going to lie for me.
I think the main problem, and I'm a big Jalen Hurts believer, I think that he has the wherewithal to actually get better. Hey, nice drink of choice there, dude. Sorry, this is terrible audio. However, so big Jalen Hurts believer, but I think the Eagles messed up. And I think the Eagles messed up because they said Jalen Hurts is our starter. We're going to find out what we have. The problem is that Jalen Hurts is going to be fairly successful on the ground because he has Lamar level. He might not be as good a runner as Lamar, but he he put up the stats to say otherwise. He actually had a better first few games than Lamar did as a rookie. And so what you're going to see is the Eagles have some offensive success because that's going to open things up for Miles Sanders, and that's going to open up some of those short passes. I think it's going to be largely a scheme or a screen scheme to where they simplify everything for him, but he's going to be successful in that role. And so then the Eagles are going to say, well, fuck, we don't know what to do because he was good. And if we draft a replacement for him, there's a chance that he goes and he beats out that replacement. So then they're back in the Carson Wentz situation and it's all bad. And so I think they messed up. I think Jalen Hurts can improve. I think we've seen that out of some quarterbacks. I don't think it happens in 2021 as a passer, as a pure pocket passer.
Yeah, it won't happen for a pure pocket passer because that's not what he is. I mean, he can hit the quick passes. He's honestly a B-rate Lamar, in my opinion. I think this offense has to transition completely towards a Raven-style playbook for this to be fully working. And that means, like you said, a lot of screen games, a lot of quick passes, get the ball to his hand, hit the tight end quick in the seam, which they already do. Run the ball heavy, have Hurts run the ball on options. All that works out perfectly for what they have drafted and brought in.
Yeah.
But will they do it? Like we can sit here and look at what he's good at and say, this makes complete sense. Just do what's already been done and you'll be successful and you'll win at least 8 games or 7 games probably. Like even with Hurts being somewhat of a question mark, defense definitely being somewhat of a question mark. Same with wide receiver core, I guess, but I just don't know. I don't know if they're going to do it.
Yeah, it's fair. And that's actually a pretty good segue into the second question. We saw some of the most efficient running back performances out of Miles Sanders once Jalen Hurts took over towards the end of the year. We assumed that meant that Miles Sanders was going to be the lead back, the workhorse. I don't think we all assumed workhorse, but we did assume a larger workload because they definitely limited him at times throughout both of his first couple of seasons. What is his outlook for 2021? And then as a dynasty asset, what are you doing with Miles Sanders right now, Randy?
Keeping him.
You sound so happy.
So, okay. I was in a dilemma last year, and that's why I'm kind of fucked. I was in a dilemma last year where Miles Sanders was getting this almost like ceiling ranking for the year where he was being drafted as like the RB like 7 or 8, at the worst case like 10. And especially in our OG league, I knew I needed him to be that. So I kept him hoping that would actually be the case. And I wish I probably would have traded him at the deadline, but because his value is just not there is the problem. I think he could still be an RB1. I still think he gets a lot of work. It's just it's just one of those things where like he's going to get probably like 55, 60% of the workload, which is very, very good. I think he gets 200 rush attempts.
Probably.
But they're never going to take him off the leash, really. Which, that makes perfect sense to me. I get it. It's honestly smart, especially if they are transitioning towards a Raven scheme. It would make sense that him and Dobbins have about the same kind of workload, same amount of touches. It's just, it hurts because he's going to RB 18 and redraft and dynasty. That's definitely closer to the floor and more realistic, honestly. But like, it's just, you can't do anything with that. You have to keep him there. Hope he has a couple big games. If you want to move on then, you move on then. I think for the dynasty, I would rank him definitely higher than 18. I know we have it, so I should just look.
You have him at 13.
I was going to say, I know I had him right outside, if I believe. I am at 13, right ahead of Dobbins.
Yeah.
I think they both deserve to go back-to-back. That's my biggest thing.
Sanders, I am actually less concerned than I started out this offseason as. And the reason being, Jalen Hurts is going to open up running lanes. when they move to RPOs or just read options, Miles Sanders broke off quite a few big runs, and he was able to get bigger chunks. People are nervous because of Kenny Gainwell and Kerryon Johnson and Jordan Howard. Two of those guys might not even make the team. Now, Kenny Gainwell is going to make the team, of course, and I think the fantasy community had hyped up Kenny Gainwell, including us. The NFL draft community did the same thing. And so now we have this perception that he's way better than he is. He was a day 3 pick. A day 3 pick should not concern you when you're looking at Miles Sanders. Now, long term, though, I don't know what Miles Sanders is, because they have said we're going to add to this running back room. Maybe it's injury insurance, or maybe it's they don't have full belief in him yet, but I actually am comfortable with him this year.
It is a new coaching staff, so it does make sense that they want him to prove it to him. But yeah. I do think he does. And like I said, I think he's higher value than RB18. I think this is close to his floor. So you have to keep him. And then if you get RB1 value in a trade him. If you want to get out of this committee, especially with Gainwell in, you're scared off. But right now you have to hope for the best and hope they gear towards the Ravens system.
Yeah, which I think they will. And then speaking of the Ravens system and, wide receivers, so Jalen Reagor moving to the slot, Travis Fulgham, I believe, is going to profile as the X. That is my answer to this question. Is your answer also yes?
If the question is he going to have a letter and technically be listed as a starting receiver because of that, then yes, because I don't think it's Watkins or J-Jaw. But this is a team that's going to be running 12 personnel.
Yeah,
they already have for forever. They're going to keep doing it, and it's just going to be Reagor and Smith out there in screen games with tight ends and running backs. And I just don't know how much he's worth it. He did nothing with Jalen Hurts last year. I don't see that changing a ton. I do think he gets more involved technically because a full offseason together, a full figured out, but just not happy with it.
It's fair. I also think the introduction of Alshon Jeffrey to that shitty offense last year fucked with Fulgham, and it 100%. Didn't make sense. I think Peterson at that point was just kind of packing it in, giving his guy a little bit more run. But I think Fulgham does step into that role. I think he has flex play appeal at times throughout 2021. But I also need to see what camp looks like, because they could have just a surprise guy break out and be the starting X, which, like you said, they're 12 personnel. They re-signed Richard Rodgers, so if they don't have Ertz.
Yeah, which they're not going to have Ertz, in my opinion. I don't see how they keep him. I don't see how he's either getting traded or cut.
Yeah,
there's no question for me. Rodgers will be the tight end 2, and he was effective as a tight end 1 and 2 last year. That's why I think Fulgham's pretty good. I just don't think he gets enough targets for me to care in a startup.
Yeah. All right. We have to zip through these last couple. So let's talk about the Giants. 3 questions. Is Daniel Jones good? That can be a yes or a no, or we can expand upon it. It's okay. How will the targets be distributed, with just a ton of ambiguity about which receivers and which weapons will be on the field? And then is Saquon worth the investment in fantasy football, coming off a couple major injuries, but mainly the one last year with the torn up knee? Randy, is Daniel Jones good?
Okay, this is a tweet question that is going to make me sound like a dick. I said, is he worth a pick? Because he's getting a ton of hype by our friends, honestly. Yes. They're wrong. He's not worth the pick. Okay. I think he's barely a QB2 in Dynasty rankings for me, and I think that's effective and right. I would rather have old guys over him. Honestly, I don't think he has a job after this year. I don't think he's Josh Allen. I think that may be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And that's, again, right back at our friends. I just hate it. I hate that. Well, Josh Allen did this, so now he's going to do it because he's got Galladay. No.
Well,
could he be slightly better? Yes. Could he run a good amount and I could care? Yes. But if Saquon's back and healthy, is Daniel Jones running as much? No. Is he going to be any better really as a quarterback just because of Galladay? Probably not. Like Josh Allen, his only thing was he had to get slightly more accurate for him to really unlock what he was. That's not Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones can't do what Josh Allen can do.
no, they're not the same. And the reason
But that's all I hear.
I know. And the reason they're not the same, though, is because Josh Allen is one of the weirdest outliers where like a quarterback coach fixed some mechanical issues. And that was the issue. Like those were the issues. They were mechanical, they were fixable, and the tools were always there. With Daniel Jones, he's never been an accurate passer, not even in college. His athleticism, while it was a little surprising last year, like that one long run where he tripped and fell on his face, he's not the same athlete as Josh Allen either. And while like I am buying in a little bit because of a few workout videos where you can tell that he's really, really focusing on keeping the ball safe. Because don't get me wrong, most of Daniel Jones's problem is turnovers and it's fumbles specifically. He's done it for 2 years now. If he fumbles less, he probably has more fantasy value, right? Because you're not losing points off of that. But he's not going to take this high level jump. I think I have Drew Lock ranked ahead of him because I believe more in Lock than I do Jones. I've always felt that way, and I think Locke has actually shown us a bit more than Daniel Jones has to this point. Daniel Jones threw 7 touchdowns last year. That's it. Or something low, 11. I don't know. I don't have it pulled up, but something bad. My answer is no, not at what his ADP is, which is somewhere in the 12 to 18 range, I want to say, and that's just way too freaking high. So much for going quickly through here. Question. Go ahead.
I'm barely drafting him as a quarterback too. That's my point.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's how I have it ranked as well.
And I think he's getting hyped to where that's not value anymore. So not worth a pick.
All right. How are the targets going to be distributed in New York this year? Obviously, we know Evan Engram led the team in targets. And did nothing with them because he's Evan Engram. And they still have Sterling Shepard. They still have Darius Leighton. They signed Kenny Golladay. They drafted Kadarius Toney. They did get rid of Golden Tate. So, but they also have Saquon Barkley coming back, who will command quite a few targets. How do you think that the targets will be distributed? Is there a clear-cut, target hog on this team, in your opinion?
Galladay's going to be the target hog. I mean,
Okay.
I think that's obvious. I think he is going to be the only redeeming quality of Jones. I think he's going to bail him out a dick ton because of his high jump ball abilities. I really don't like Daniel Jones as a pure quarterback, so sorry. Fantasy, he's decent, but pure quarterback, I don't like his game, really. I'm concerned to have Shepard or Toney because I think that muddies the waters. I'm concerned to have Slayton at all because his only real value for this team was deep ball, breakout, get open, and Daniel Jones could sometimes get the ball that far. And I think that's now Galladay. I just don't know. I don't think I would trust anyone that's not Galladay, and I think I would take the flyer on Toney as a future guy. Slayton, I am very worried about what he's going to be. Ingram should keep his kind of target share. It was slightly decreased, obviously, because of Barkley being back. So I think you could only pretty much have Galladay.
I'm a little more optimistic about Darius Leighton because I think the reason that he kind of slumped a little bit towards the end of last year, he did have a good start to the season. But then he did get, I believe he tweaked his ankle, and then after that he really wasn't the same. That's not the reason I'm optimistic about him, though. The reason I'm optimistic is because they actually have a true wide receiver one, whereas last year Slayton was kind of in that role. Now he can move over to that Z role and just kind of be what De'Ami Brown was for UNC. I think it's going to be a fairly similar looking offense too, which is ironic, but that means that Slayton can just run deep, and Galladay I think he was used as a big time deep threat, but I think he has the chops to work in the intermediate as well. So I think I think that Slayton still has some upside. I think it definitely is more a dynasty thing because then they'll have an actual quarterback, hopefully.
Yeah, like Rattler.
Yeah, Howell.
Or
yeah.
Anyone else. Yeah, I don't disagree. It's just one of those I don't feel comfortable, but in a pure dynasty thought, I would definitely I'm not taking Shepard, and then I would take Tony before Slayton, and then probably I would be fine taking Slayton to be a deep on my bench guy, but
yeah. All right, last question. Very quick answer. Is Saquon worth the investment in fantasy football?
Dynasty? No.
Okay.
Yeah, and that seems fucking harsh.
I get it. We all have him right. I mean, Saquon goes in the top like 2 to 3 backs. I have him ranked as such. I have him third. But that's betting on quite a bit. We haven't really seen Saquon is very, very similar to how people feel about Odell right now. Where he had one elite year and then he's been good, but he can't stay on the field. And that's why, everyone's out on Odell. I think we're approaching that for Barkley, and we talked about that a little bit.
He's not worth the risk to me because, I mean, even in Superflex startups, he's a top 5 pick. And for me, that he's going as RB2. And I'm just, I can't get by it anymore. Like it's his peak value. He's injury prone now. I mean, they're all freak injuries. Don't get me wrong, but he's literally one injury away from not getting the contract anywhere near his actual value to not being able to cut as well as he could. It's worrying. Like he literally has to show out this year and be an RB1. And even then, I still think he's not returning value for you. So he's not worth the pick.
Yeah. If knowing that he's going as the 2, I'm with you. Because he's my 3. All right, let's move on to the Washington football team to round out this episode. We're going to kind of zip through these, unfortunately, because this is who I would never mind.
Joke.
Yes. All right. Number 1, will it be Fitzmagic or Fitztragic? Number 2 is Antonio Gibson being overhyped at this point. Shout out, Jeff. And then number 3, should the football team be favorites to win the NFC East? Fitzmagic or Fitztragic? Ready, go.
Fitzmagic. I still believe in him. Again, it's a 1-year thing for me. He's better than anything they've had in the last couple years.
By a lot.
Yeah, the receiving core is impeccable. It's not really what he's used to when he's been fully successful. I'll say that. He's used to having like the mix of like the slot guys and the quick guys, but having like that deep, big body, jump up and get it guy. That's like Logan Thomas. So I think that's why I'm a little bit higher on Logan Thomas than a lot of people. But I think it's Fitzmagic. There will be Fitztragic weeks though. We haven't had a Fitztragic week in a long time. I think we're due for like 3 this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be very hard for him to be Fitztragic, and the reason is those weapons are pretty freaking insane. And so I think let's just tie this into question 3 and then come back to question 2. Does Fitzmagic then make them the favorites to win the NFC East again?
So is that your pick?
Yes. Yeah, I think the football team, I think their defense is going to be good enough to slow down the Cowboys in divisional games, and that's the only reason.
I think the favorites with coach, with defense, with weapons should be Washington. I'm going to pick the Cowboys. I picked the Cowboys last year, and they got robbed of the opportunity. I think Fitzmagic makes them better. I think their defensive picks makes them better. I think their offensive moves makes them better. But they won, 8 games? 7, 8, 9 games last year?
7. They were 7.
I think they win 9 or 10 this year. Yeah. I think Dallas is winning 10 or 11. So I'm going with Dallas.
That's fair. That's fair.
But if they're the favorite, totally get it. That's
yeah. It's understandable. All right, and then back to question 2. At this point, is Antonio Gibson being overhyped? I have seen him in top 10s and 12s in Dynasty rankings quite a bit the last few days. That's why I shouted out Jeff. I believe he has him as a top 10 back, I think somewhere 7 or 8. Randy, how do you feel about Gibson? Is he overhyped?
Yes. Yes, he's overhyped. The dude got like 33% of touches last year. He's obviously going to get an increase, but McKissick will be a value this year. I think it's going to lean more towards a passing offense this year. People think, I swear people expect him to get like 65, 70% of touches. And that's just not fucking happening.
No.
I mean, he's going Dynasty Startup ADP for, or rankings for Fantasy Pros has him as RB14, pick 34. I can somewhat get behind that, but I ranked him as like RB18.
We both have him as 18.
I just don't, I could see an RB1 year, maybe 2. I just don't see this transcendent, God talented, it's just not what he's being hyped to be. There's no proof on paper. There's nothing that shows he's getting an increase besides just him being in the league another year. I just don't see the absolute ceiling hype to be in a lock at top 10. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually had this discussion with Jeff. I said, I get worried because most of his fantasy production came from touchdowns. And while you can make the argument that the football team's offense is definitely going to be better, you can also say the reason he was so good at getting touchdowns is because there weren't too many players on that team that could score touchdowns. And now they have Curtis Samuel, who I assume will take some goal line touches. And people haven't really considered that.
McKissick took goal line touches.
Exactly.
Last year.
And you've got a capable passer at this point, so they're not just going to hand the ball off to Antonio Gibson every time they're on the goal line either. They're going to throw the ball to Terry McLaurin. They're going to throw the ball to Logan Thomas. And so I think with how much of his work or how much of his production came from touchdowns, I think it is a little bit concerning. Do I think he gets an uptick in how much of the share he has? Yes, absolutely. Do I think it's top 10, top 12 worthy? No. Like I said, we both have him at 18, and I think that's where I'd be comfortable drafting him, and I think I would be out on him at wide receiver 14 as well. So,
yeah, again, it's another guy. If someone's giving you 2 first rounders and some depth player, or a guy that has a
seems as though we lost Randy. He has left. So,
a future in the league.
There he is. He's coming back. You went out for a solid 12 seconds there.
Only 12 seconds. Okay. It's the fastest 40. I'm just kidding.
We missed a lot of what you said, but I understand what you're saying. Is just take him at. If you're getting good value back for him, then yes, that's pretty much it. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Of course, tight ends and the NFC East aren't the most fun things to talk about, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you guys leave us a 4 or 5 star review on your favorite podcast app, specifically Apple Podcasts. That's where we get the most traffic. Again, make sure you guys bookmark thecutffb.com. We are very, very excited for all the contributors that we have there. If you go there now and go to the articles tab, you're going to see 5 or 6 new articles from those guys from last week. So very excited for that. A ton of really good stuff. A best ball guide, Julio Jones' impact on the Falcons, stuff like that. So very, very good stuff. Make sure you guys head there. Follow me at CWilliamsNFL on Twitter. Follow Randy at RHallNFL. Randy, do you have anything to add before we bounce out of here?
Nope.
All right. We will be back next week. I am unsure of exactly what we'll be talking about. Definitely going to continue with our divisional burning questions, but we'll have some other type of segment in there as well. So stay tuned. Be on the lookout for anything kind of announcing what we'll be talking about. But for Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We will talk to you guys next Monday. Later.